Public attention surrounding Taylor Swift's personal life has once again intensified, but this time the spotlight is not on her music or record-breaking achievements. Instead, growing reports suggest that the global superstar is feeling increasingly uncomfortable with the excessive focus on her romantic relationship, a situation that has sparked widespread discussion across international media and social platforms. According to multiple entertainment sources, the level of scrutiny directed at Taylor Swift's relationship has reached a point that is difficult to ignore. What was once casual curiosity has evolved into relentless observation. Every public appearance, candid photograph, and subtle gesture is dissected in real time, often fueling speculation that spreads at lightning speed online. Insiders claim this constant attention has begun to weigh heavily on the singer. While Taylor Swift has spent much of her career under intense public observation, industry observers note that the current situation feels markedly different. The scale of attention, amplified by social media algorithms and non-stop digital commentary, has created an environment where privacy is increasingly hard to maintain. A single moment captured by cameras can dominate headlines within minutes, turning personal experiences into global talking points. Experts point out that Taylor Swift has historically been one of the most strategic figures in the music industry when it comes to managing her public image. She has carefully balanced openness with discretion, choosing when to share aspects of her life and when to remain silent. However, recent reports indicate that the narrative around her relationship has largely escaped her control, becoming a spectacle shaped more by public speculation than by her own voice. Sources close to the situation suggest that Swift has started to make subtle adjustments in response. She is said to be more selective about public outings and increasingly cautious about situations that could trigger further media frenzy. Though no official statement has been released, these behavioral shifts are being interpreted by many as signs of her desire to reclaim personal boundaries as the conversation grows louder. The issue has expanded beyond celebrity gossip into a broader debate about privacy and mental well-being. Commentators and fans alike are questioning how much access the public is entitled to when it comes to the private lives of high-profile figures. Taylor Swift's experience is now being cited as an example of how fame, particularly at a global scale, can blur the line between public interest and personal intrusion. Adding to the intrigue, fans have begun analyzing Swift's recent appearances and creative output for possible clues. Some believe there is a noticeable change in her demeanor, pointing to more guarded interviews and a reflective tone in her recent lyrics. While these interpretations remain speculative, they have only intensified curiosity rather than calming it. Midway through this ongoing discussion, industry analysts have raised another compelling angle. They suggest that the growing discomfort could influence Swift's future artistic direction. Throughout her career, personal experiences have often shaped her songwriting. If this period of heightened scrutiny leaves a lasting emotional impact, it could manifest in music that is more introspective, restrained, or even critical of celebrity culture itself. This possibility has further fueled anticipation among fans and critics, turning the situation into more than just a relationship story. It has become a narrative about control, autonomy, and the emotional cost of living under constant observation. The tension lies in what comes next. Whether Swift will choose to address the issue publicly, withdraw further from the spotlight, or transform the experience into creative expression. In recent days, media coverage has begun to shift tone. Rather than focusing solely on relationship details, more outlets are emphasizing the implications of excessive exposure and the pressures faced by female artists at the top of the industry. Taylor Swift's name is increasingly linked to conversations about double standards, public entitlement, and the psychological toll of fame. As of now, Taylor Swift has not commented directly on the reports. Her silence, however, has not gone unnoticed. For many observers, it reinforces the idea that she is carefully considering her next move. Whether through music, a public statement, or a deliberate step back, her response is expected to carry significant weight. What remains clear is that this situation highlights a recurring tension in modern celebrity culture. Behind the sold-out stadiums and global acclaim is an individual seeking balance between personal happiness and public expectation. As the story continues to unfold, audiences around the world are watching closely, aware that the next chapter could redefine how one of the world's most influential artists navigates fame, privacy, and control over her own narrative. The discussion does not end there. As the story continues to evolve, media analysts are now examining the wider implications of the situation, not only for Taylor Swift but for the entertainment industry as a whole. In recent years, the boundaries between public and private life have become increasingly blurred, particularly for artists whose popularity transcends music and enters the realm of global culture. Swift, as one of the most influential figures of her generation, stands at the center of this shift. Several commentators argue that the intensity of attention surrounding Swift's relationship reflects a broader pattern in modern celebrity coverage. Algorithms reward constant engagement, sensational headlines drive clicks, and personal narratives often outperform professional achievements in terms of traffic. As a result, relationships, friendships, and even fleeting interactions are elevated into major news cycles. For an artist of Swift's stature, this means there is little room for personal moments that are not immediately amplified. Industry insiders suggest that this level of exposure can create a paradox. While public interest fuels relevance and commercial success, it can simultaneously erode the sense of normalcy that many artists strive to protect. In Swift's case, sources claim that the joy of sharing milestones with someone close is overshadowed by the knowledge that every detail may be scrutinized, misinterpreted, or turned into a narrative beyond her control. This tension has reportedly sparked internal conversations within Swift's team about long-term strategy. While her professional commitments remain unchanged, there is growing emphasis on safeguarding her personal space. Some observers have noted a recalibration in how and when she is seen in public, as well as a more deliberate approach to appearances that could generate unnecessary speculation. The timing of these reports is also significant. Swift is currently at a point in her career where she has little left to prove commercially. Her albums dominate charts, her tours break records, and her influence extends far beyond music into fashion, business, and cultural discourse. This level of achievement affords her a degree of autonomy that few artists possess, raising questions about whether she might leverage that position to redefine her relationship with the public eye. Fans, meanwhile, are divided in their reactions. Many have expressed support, emphasizing that admiration should not come at the cost of personal comfort. Social media platforms have seen an uptick in discussions advocating for greater respect of boundaries, with some fans calling for a shift away from invasive speculation. Others, however, continue to engage in intense analysis, illustrating how deeply embedded this behavior has become in modern fan culture. Psychologists specializing in fame and public figures note that situations like this can create cumulative stress. Unlike isolated controversies, ongoing scrutiny operates as a constant background pressure. Even moments of happiness can become sources of anxiety when they are instantly transformed into headlines. Over time, this can affect decision-making, emotional well-being, and interpersonal relationships. Against this backdrop, Swift's silence has taken on added significance. Known for using her voice strategically, whether through interviews or music, her choice not to directly address the reports is being interpreted as intentional. Some believe she is allowing the conversation to run its course, while others suggest she may be preparing a more controlled response at a later stage. Speculation has also emerged around how this period might influence her artistic output. Historically, Swift has turned personal challenges into narratives that resonate with millions. If the current situation finds its way into her songwriting, it could mark a shift toward themes of autonomy, surveillance, and the cost of visibility. Such a move would not be unprecedented, but the context would add a new layer of depth to her work. Media coverage has gradually begun to reflect this complexity. Rather than framing the story solely as a celebrity relationship update, more outlets are examining systemic issues within entertainment journalism. Discussions now include the ethics of coverage, the responsibility of audiences, and the impact of relentless exposure on mental health. Swift's experience has become a reference point in these debates, highlighting the human consequences behind the headlines. As the narrative unfolds, one question remains at the forefront. What does control look like for someone whose life has been public for so long? For Taylor Swift, reclaiming privacy does not necessarily mean disappearing from view, but rather redefining the terms of engagement. It may involve choosing silence over explanation, distance over accessibility, and intention over reaction. Looking ahead, analysts believe the next phase will be critical. Whether Swift decides to address the situation openly, embed her perspective into her art, or simply continue without acknowledgement. Each option carries its own message. In a culture accustomed to constant updates, restraint itself can become a powerful statement. For now, the story remains open-ended. What began as reports of discomfort has grown into a broader reflection on fame, boundaries, and modern media dynamics. Taylor Swift's journey through this moment is being watched closely, not just by fans, but by an industry increasingly aware of the need for change. As attention continues to swirl, one thing is increasingly clear. The conversation surrounding Taylor Swift is no longer just about who she is dating. It is about who controls the narrative, how much access is too much, and whether the world is ready to respect the line between admiration and intrusion. The outcome of this moment may well influence how future generations of artists navigate life under the spotlight, making this chapter not just personal, but culturally significant. As public discussion continues to expand, attention is increasingly turning to how moments like this reshape the long-term relationship between celebrities and their audiences. In Taylor Swift's case, the situation has reignited conversations that have lingered beneath the surface for years. Questions about entitlement, access, and the evolving nature of fame in an era where visibility is constant and escape is rare. Media analysts note that Swift's level of fame places her in a unique category. She is not simply a successful musician, but a cultural force whose personal life is often treated as part of a larger narrative consumed alongside her art. This blending of personal and professional identities has benefits, but it also carries risks. When the balance tips too far, the individual behind the brand can become obscured, reduced to fragments interpreted through headlines and viral clips. Reports suggest that the current discomfort stems not from a single incident, but from accumulation. Weeks and months of heightened attention, repeated speculation, and relentless commentary can gradually erode a sense of control. For someone who has spent years carefully curating how much of her life is shared, this loss of control is said to be particularly frustrating. Observers describe it as a slow pressure rather than a sudden breaking point. This moment has also prompted renewed examination of how female artists, in particular, are covered by the media. Critics argue that women in the spotlight often face disproportionate scrutiny when it comes to their relationships, with narratives that frame personal choices as public property. Swift's experience is now being cited alongside broader discussions about gender dynamics in celebrity culture, where success does not necessarily translate into autonomy. At the same time, the commercial machinery surrounding fame continues to move forward. Paparazzi images generate revenue, trending topics drive engagement, and speculation sustains interest between professional milestones. This creates a system in which restraint is rarely rewarded. Within such a structure, an artist's discomfort can easily be overshadowed by the demand for constant content. Those close to the industry suggest that Swift's awareness of this system is precisely why her response appears measured rather than reactive. Throughout her career, she has demonstrated an ability to think several steps ahead, often turning moments of tension into opportunities for reinvention. The current situation is viewed by some as another inflection point, one that could quietly shape her future decisions without dramatic public gestures. Fans continue to play a complex role in this dynamic. While many express support and empathy, the culture of constant analysis persists even within well-meaning communities. Lyrics are parsed, outfits are examined, and silence itself becomes a subject of interpretation. This illustrates how deeply ingrained participation has become, where even calls for privacy can coexist with ongoing scrutiny. Mental health advocates have weighed in as well, emphasizing that sustained exposure can have cumulative effects regardless of resilience or experience. They note that fame does not eliminate the need for boundaries, and that discomfort should not be dismissed simply because it comes from someone successful. In this context, Swift's situation is increasingly framed as a reminder that visibility and vulnerability are not interchangeable. As the narrative develops, speculation continues about how this period might intersect with Swift's broader career arc. Some analysts believe she may use her influence to subtly challenge expectations, perhaps by shifting how she engages with media or by redefining the level of access she allows. Others suggest that any changes will be gradual, designed to avoid fueling further attention while still asserting control. The absence of an official statement remains a focal point. In an environment where immediate responses are often expected, Choosing silence can disrupt the usual cycle. It leaves less material to dissect and shifts responsibility back to observers. Whether intentional or not, this approach has already altered the tone of some coverage, prompting more reflective analysis rather than constant speculation. International media outlets have begun contextualizing the situation within a larger trend. As more artists speak openly about burnout and boundaries, there is growing recognition that the traditional model of celebrity may be unsustainable. Swift's experience is now frequently mentioned alongside this shift, reinforcing the idea that even the most established figures are reassessing their relationship with fame. There is also curiosity about how this moment will be remembered in hindsight. Similar periods in Swift's past have later been reinterpreted through music, interviews, or retrospective commentary. What feels unresolved now may eventually gain clarity, offering insight into how she processed the experience internally. Until then, the lack of resolution continues to fuel interest. For the industry, this episode serves as both a case study and a warning. It highlights the fine line between engagement and overreach, and the potential consequences when that line is crossed repeatedly. While attention is often viewed as an asset, unchecked intensity can create resistance, even from those who have built careers within the spotlight as days pass without direct acknowledgement. The story continues to evolve organically. New angles emerge, opinions shift, and focus drifts between empathy and curiosity. Yet, at its core, the narrative remains consistent. It is about an individual seeking equilibrium in a system designed for constant exposure. What ultimately happens next may matter less than what this moment represents. It reflects a growing awareness that fame, no matter how celebrated, carries hidden costs. For Taylor Swift, navigating those costs has become part of her ongoing story, one that extends beyond music charts and tour statistics into questions of identity and agency. As audiences continue to watch closely, the situation invites a pause. It challenges long-standing assumptions about access and reminds the public that admiration does not require intrusion. Whether or not Swift chooses to speak, the conversation she has unintentionally sparked is already influencing how fame, privacy, and respect are being reconsidered in the modern era. The story remains unfinished, unfolding in real time without clear answers. What is evident, however, is that this chapter has added a new layer to Taylor Swift's public narrative, one defined not by spectacle, but by the quiet assertion of boundaries. In a culture accustomed to constant revelation, that assertion may prove to be one of the most powerful statements she has made yet. As the narrative stretches further, the ripple effects of this situation are becoming increasingly visible across different layers of pop culture discourse. What initially surfaced as reports of discomfort has now transformed into a prolonged examination of how celebrity life is consumed, commodified, and sustained in the modern era. Taylor Swift's name continues to anchor this conversation, not because of controversy, but because of what her experience represents. Cultural commentators point out that Swift's career has unfolded alongside the evolution of media itself. She rose to prominence in a time when tabloids dominated, adapted during the rise of social media, and now exists in an era of constant surveillance driven by smartphones and algorithms. Each phase has intensified public access, gradually narrowing the distance between artist and audience. The current scrutiny over her relationship is seen as the culmination of that progression. What sets this moment apart, analysts argue, is the apparent shift in tone. Rather than playful curiosity, the attention has taken on an almost investigative quality. Ordinary moments are treated as clues, and silence is framed as a statement. This hyper-analysis, while often fueled by admiration, can create an atmosphere where nothing feels neutral anymore. For someone like Swift, whose every move carries symbolic weight, the margin for simply existing in public has become increasingly thin. Sources familiar with celebrity brand management suggest that situations like this often trigger reassessments behind the scenes. Decisions about visibility, accessibility, and even tour scheduling are influenced by how manageable the surrounding attention feels. While Swift remains fully engaged professionally, insiders note a heightened sensitivity toward how personal narratives intersect with her public image. This awareness extends to how stories are framed. Media outlets are reportedly becoming more cautious, recognizing that audiences are growing more critical of invasive coverage. There is a noticeable increase in editorials questioning whether constant exposure serves any meaningful purpose beyond momentary engagement. Swift's case has become a reference point in these discussions, illustrating how quickly fascination can cross into fatigue. From a business perspective, the situation underscores an important paradox. Taylor Swift's personal life undeniably drives interest, but her longevity as an artist has been built on music, storytelling, and reinvention. Overemphasis on her relationship risks overshadowing the very elements that sustain her career. Industry veterans warn that when the balance tilts too far, both the artist and the audience ultimately lose. Meanwhile, fan culture continues to evolve in real time. Online communities oscillate between defending Swift's right to privacy and continuing to analyze every development. This duality highlights the complexity of modern fandom, where emotional investment can blur into entitlement without clear intent. Even expressions of concern can inadvertently contribute to the cycle of attention they seek to disrupt. Sociologists studying celebrity dynamics describe this phenomenon as participatory surveillance. Unlike traditional paparazzi-driven exposure, today's scrutiny is crowdsourced. Millions of individuals contribute fragments of observation, speculation, and interpretation, creating a collective gaze that is both powerful and difficult to resist. For public figures, escaping that gaze often requires deliberate withdrawal rather than simple discretion. Within this context, Swift's restraint takes on added meaning. Her decision not to address the reports directly deprives the cycle of fuel, forcing the conversation to rely on broader analysis rather than fresh details. Over time, this approach may reduce intensity, but it also prolongs uncertainty. In an attention economy, unresolved stories tend to linger. International reactions further demonstrate the scale of interest. Coverage spans continents, with outlets framing the issue through cultural lenses that reflect local attitudes toward fame and privacy. In some regions, the focus is on mental health. In others, it centers on media ethics. Despite these differences, the core narrative remains consistent: an artist navigating the limits of visibility. There is also growing curiosity about how future milestones will be handled. Upcoming appearances, releases, or public events are now viewed through the lens of this ongoing discussion. Each moment carries the potential to either reignite speculation or subtly signal a new direction. This anticipation keeps the story alive, even in the absence of concrete updates. Looking further ahead, some analysts speculate that this period could mark a quiet turning point. Not a dramatic break, but a gradual recalibration of how Taylor Swift engages with fame. Such shifts are rarely announced. They are felt over time through patterns of presence and absence. If that is the case, the significance of this moment may only become clear in retrospect. For younger artists watching from the sidelines, the situation offers a lesson in both opportunity and caution. Swift's success demonstrates the power of connection with audiences, but her current discomfort highlights the importance of boundaries. As new generations enter the industry, these lessons may shape how they approach visibility from the outset. As weeks pass, the story continues to sustain attention precisely because it lacks closure. There is no definitive statement, no singular event to mark its end. Instead, it unfolds as a series of observations, interpretations, and reflections. This open-endedness mirrors the broader uncertainty surrounding the future of celebrity culture itself. Ultimately, what keeps the narrative compelling is its relatability beneath the scale. Stripped of fame and headlines, it is a story about seeking balance, about wanting to protect something meaningful from external pressure. That human core resonates, even as the circumstances remain extraordinary. For now, Taylor Swift remains at the center of a conversation larger than any single relationship. It is a conversation about control, saturation, and the cost of constant visibility. Whether or not she chooses to engage directly, the discussion she has sparked continues to grow, shaping perceptions not only of her, but of the system that surrounds her. As attention persists and interpretations evolve, one reality stands firm. This chapter is no longer just another celebrity news cycle. It is an ongoing examination of how far the spotlight can stretch before it becomes too heavy, and what happens when one of the world's most recognizable figures quietly decides to push back. As the coverage deepens, the conversation surrounding Taylor Swift is gradually shifting from immediate reaction to long-form reflection. Newsrooms that once chased rapid updates are now publishing extended analyses, attempting to contextualize what this moment means within the broader arc of celebrity culture. The story is no longer driven by news sightings or speculative details, but by interpretation, impact, and consequence. Several media analysts emphasize that Swift's situation reflects a structural issue rather than an isolated case. In today's attention economy, personal narratives often outperform professional ones. Relationship stories generate stronger emotional engagement, longer viewing times, and higher search volume than album reviews or tour statistics. This dynamic incentivizes relentless focus on private life, even when the subject has not invited such attention. Swift, despite her influence, is not immune to this mechanism. What makes the current moment particularly notable is Swift's position of power. Unlike emerging artists who may feel pressured to tolerate exposure for relevance, she operates from a place of established authority. Her career longevity, financial independence, and cultural influence give her options that few possess. Observers argue that this may explain why her response appears restrained yet deliberate, signaling boundaries without confrontation. From a journalistic standpoint, the story has prompted internal debates about responsibility. Editors and commentators are increasingly questioning how much coverage is justified and where the line should be drawn. Some outlets have begun reframing their reporting, focusing less on speculative angles and more on the implications of excessive scrutiny. This recalibration, while subtle, suggests growing awareness of audience fatigue with invasive narratives. At the same time, public appetite for the story remains strong. Search trends indicate sustained interest, driven not by new revelations but by curiosity about what Swift will do next. This anticipation creates a feedback loop where silence itself becomes a form of content. Each day without clarification invites new interpretations, extending the life of the story far beyond its original trigger. Cultural critics note that Swift's career has often been defined by her ability to transform pressure into narrative control. Past conflicts and controversies were later reframed through music, documentaries, or carefully chosen statements. This history fuels speculation that the current situation may eventually find expression in a similar way, though the timing and form remain uncertain. There is also a generational dimension to the discussion. Younger audiences, more attuned to conversations about mental health and consent, tend to view the situation through a critical lens. Many question why personal discomfort must be justified at all, arguing that boundaries should be respected regardless of status. This perspective contrasts with older models of fame, where constant exposure was treated as an unavoidable trade-off. Industry psychologists suggest that moments like this often serve as inflection points. Prolonged discomfort can lead artists to reassess priorities, renegotiate contracts, or redesign public engagement strategies. While no concrete changes have been announced, the ongoing discourse suggests that Swift's team is likely evaluating long-term adjustments rather than short-term reactions. International commentators have also drawn parallels between Swift's experience and similar cases involving high-profile figures across entertainment, sports, and politics. The common thread is not controversy, but saturation. When visibility becomes total, even neutral actions can feel intrusive. Swift's situation is increasingly cited as evidence that the current media ecosystem may be reaching a threshold. As the story continues to circulate, its tone has become more contemplative. Headlines now emphasize themes of autonomy, fatigue, and recalibration rather than speculation. This evolution reflects a broader shift in how audiences consume celebrity news, with growing interest in the human cost behind the spectacle. Despite this shift, uncertainty remains the story's defining feature. Without direct confirmation or denial, interpretations coexist without resolution. This ambiguity sustains engagement while allowing Swift to avoid being pinned to a single narrative. For an artist known for strategic communication, this ambiguity may itself be intentional. Looking forward, attention is likely to intensify around key moments. Any public appearance, interview, or creative release will be examined for signals. Analysts caution, however, that overinterpretation risks repeating the very pattern that sparked the discomfort in the first place. This tension underscores the difficulty of breaking cycles that are collectively reinforced. In the meantime, the conversation has expanded beyond Swift as an individual. It has become a case study in modern fame, illustrating how personal life, media incentives, and audience behavior intersect. Universities, cultural forums, and think pieces now reference the situation as an example of shifting norms around privacy and public interest. For Swift, navigating this moment is not just about addressing a single wave of attention, but about shaping the conditions under which she continues her career. Whether she chooses to engage, redirect, or remain silent, each choice contributes to a larger statement about agency in an era of constant visibility. As days turn into weeks, the absence of dramatic developments has not diminished interest. Instead, it has transformed the story into a slow-burn narrative driven by analysis rather than events. This endurance suggests that the issue resonates beyond fandom, touching on shared anxieties about exposure, control, and balance. Ultimately, the ongoing coverage reveals as much about the audience as it does about Taylor Swift. It exposes collective habits of consumption, curiosity, and projection. In that sense, the story functions as a mirror, reflecting how modern culture negotiates the boundary between admiration and intrusion. For now, the chapter remains open. Taylor Swift continues her professional commitments, while the discourse around her personal comfort unfolds in parallel. The lack of closure ensures continued attention, but it also leaves space for change. Whether that change comes through action, art, or silence remains to be seen. What is increasingly evident, however, is that this